Now, the greatest idea of all time. Stay tuned for From the Trenches of Hollywood. Here are your guru guides from the A-list to the D and everything in between. It's Ted and Craig.
Hello and welcome to From the Trenches of Hollywood. I'm Ted Davies, artist and author.
Hey everybody, it's Craig with you again. How are you?
How you doing, Craig?
Great, man. Good to be back. After a week out of town, did a little traveling, which was nice. Came back home, still at the Mimosa Social Club, as you can see.
Yep.
But I kind of like it out here. I might just make this a permanent thing.
Permanent,
honestly.
yeah. It looks great. What's the weather like today?
It's going to be about 80 today. Here. It's going to be
great.
In the upper 70s all week through the weekend, up to 80. I think actually Thursday is supposed to be the hottest day, 81 or something like that. But yeah, it's better than what it was last week.
No,
here.
Listen, you have nothing to complain about, my friend. We got snow, and we don't have as much snow as our guest today, but we do have snow. So
cool. All right. Well, yeah, we got a big show today. Let's get it going here. First things first, a little business. You got our handles there. Take a look, follow us, send us your questions, your comments. Love to get them. Got a couple of them here today. A couple of them that are I don't know. People are asking all the time, what should I name my character? What should I name my book? What should I name this? What should I name that? But yeah, I don't know. But someone did send this kind. That's for you to
pretty
decide,
general.
right?
I mean, hey, okay,
it's for you to decide. I don't want to pipe in on that, right? But this one is good. Someone said this. They said, all right, so what comes first? And we kind of covered this. What comes first for you, the plot or characters? And we talked about that a little bit in our process talk. You know, I usually always have a conflict, right? That's what I say.
Period. Yeah.
There's usually a character attached to it somehow, somewhere, just because it's been a idea. It didn't just usually come from absolutely nothing. There's something spawned it, right? Always. But that was a cool little comment. I like that. Don't want to dwell on it. We can ask our guest where he comes from with that. When we get him out here. Why don't you tell everybody what we're doing here in the Writer's Tool Chest today?
We're going to be talking about self-publishing, and we're going to be talking about the benefits of it and why you should really consider it if this is what you want to do in life. I think it's a great avenue.
We get a lot of actually some of the comments that come in. People have been asking what they should do. Should I pursue an agent like David did? Should I go after self-publishing? So it's good. We're going to talk about this because this is not my world at all. I know that you're in part of this. Our guest is big into this. Let's bring him out. Let's get this ball rolling, my friend. And maybe we can get to a couple of those questions. Let me pull them up for the deal with the self-publishing, and you guys take it away. School me. I'm ready to be schooled. I got my learning glasses on. I broke them. Luckily, after I came back from traveling. It's the worst when you break from traveling. So
I broke mine last week too. So we're great minds. Today I want to bring in Brian K. Morris. He is an amazing author. I'll let him do his accolades, but welcome, good sir. How you doing?
All right.
Doing well. Thank you. Thank you both for having me on here. This is quite the pleasure.
Good deal. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, as my usual spiel goes, I am an independent publisher, a freelance hybrid author and editor, award-winning playwright, Facebook famous YouTuber, and former mortician's assistant. And I'm naming my next book To Kill a Mockingbird.
Okay, fair enough.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, why not?
It's worked before.
I love it. So yeah, I love your let's get into that really fast. Assistant to a mortician. I mean, was that a early career choice that you were traveling down that road and said, "No, I'm out of here," or were you just looking for really good material?
No, I actually worked for a cemetery for a year. I was the most trustworthy man in town because I'm the last person to ever let you down. But and the thing is, I've been to this is this is what the funeral industry is like behind the scenes. I've been to numerous comic book conventions, science fiction conventions, book conventions. The most fun I've ever had was at a mortician's convention. It was like um it was like a total debacle. It was wonderful. It was barely controlled chaos and the kind of dark graveyard humor that I tend to favor. Um it was kind of like Monty Python directed by David Lynch for 2 days, and it was a lot of fun. But eventually, I got out of it because um, you have to have a certain mindset to stay in it, especially when you are doing what we call pre-sales, where we would sell portions of the funeral service, like internment, the casket, the vault, etc. And you run up against people who say, "Well, I'm not planning on dying this year." And I had like a whole list of people who obviously didn't put it on their calendars or their Blackberries at the time. That gee, okay, I've got lunch with Craig and Ted on Tuesday. Thursday, I've got an hour free. Let's die. So that just doesn't come up very often. So. But that's the kind of humor that I tend to indulge in my publications. Hashtag always promote. It's served me well.
I tell you, I remember the series 6 Feet Under, the HBO series back 2001, Alan Ball show, and that I love that. It really introduced me. I just assumed there had to be more to a mortician than the consoling face that you see on the business side. Come on, there are people. It's funny you say that because I had a friend who, for a while, his job here in Southern California worked. I don't know if he was for LA County or who it was specifically he worked for, but he drove around picking up bodies and taking bodies to places, taking them from morgues to like county morgues to mortuaries, or from crime scenes, or from just. Wow. It's what he did. That was he'd go into work and he'd have a list of bodies that he was going to be transferring today. It's like, wow. And it was a night too. He's driving around all night, bodies in the back of the van.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Can you imagine the guy that's going to pull him over and try to rob him? Lord. The surprise of a lifetime.
Oh, God. Carjacking. Get a whole new meaning to carjacking.
Well, it's what a profession. Honestly, yeah, one of those necessary money makers, right? Gosh, I hear about what a business. All right. Let's get off the mortician.
Yeah, 2 hours later.
This is not all about mortician days. Sorry, I love that stuff, but
I do too.
All right, well, let's hear. You've written just a little bit of everything. Knowing, looking at you, and you're looking at your history and what you've published and put out. Today we're talking about self-publishing. What was the first thing you self-published, and how did you stumble onto it?
Well, I had lost my job with the local water utility because somebody in our corporate office had made an erroneous prediction on how our publicly held stock would do. And so they relieved about 26 people in the state I lived in at the time of their jobs to make the stock look sweeter. And I was one of them. But by that time, I was already starting to sell articles, and I had plays produced, things like that. And so I'm sitting there worrying about myself and my wife for about 45 seconds. I remember watching the little hand move around the clock. And then I remembered I had a plan B. I'm a writer. And part of my severance package was I was hooked up with a re-employment agency that taught you how to dress for interviews, how to interview, how to fill out your resumes, etc. And one day they had a webinar on electronic publishing. And I knew about traditional publishing. I had just never put it together that somebody had to put those things in my wife's Kindle until that moment. And I sat in on this wondrous event that only happened this one time, by the way. I could have missed it by that much. But anyway, I listened to this and all I saw was possibilities. All I saw were the gates opening up. Whereas, like 30 years before, all the information on publishing, whether it's comic books or music or novels, what have you, those were up in those ivory towers that the common man did not have access to. And then all of a sudden, here's the keys to the kingdom. And suddenly I could do everything that any large publisher could do on my own. And I could, get people to help me. I could hire the talent to do covers. This is, my dear friend Trevor Eric Hawkins did this for me, an Atlanta-based painter who does a lot of my work here. But I started looking into self-publishing at that point. My first book was through a program Amazon had at the time called Kindle Worlds, where they took IPs from other writers, IPs from network TV like Vampire Diaries, Pretty Little Liars. And one of the IPs we had, intellectual properties, was the Valiant comic book line. Originally started back in the 90s by a former editor-in-chief at Marvel Comics, Jim Shooter. It had been revived quite recently at that point, 10 years ago. And I was a big fan of one of the properties, Bloodshot, which was made into a movie with Vin Diesel 2 years ago. And so I wrote this book called The Coldest Warrior with the character Bloodshot. And that started me on my career. And then I realized, well, I don't really want to write Bloodshot forever. So I took this. It was originally a 10-minute stage play about Victor Frankenstein creating Santa Claus from pieces of the recently dead. And I fleshed it out. Obviously, there's more than 10 minutes worth of reading here. Published this thing, and this has gone on to be my biggest seller. I've actually sold this thing in 8 different countries. So, and from there, I just started doing more books, and eventually wound up working for other people because people saw that I knew how to promote myself. I knew how to craft a readable story.
Okay, you touched on something right there. Let's talk about 2 things. One, when your first book that you went through self-publishing with, are you using the same process now? And what is that? Is there a website you're going through? Is there a platform? Is there a process? What for the person who knows nothing? I wrote this. I want to self-publish this. What do I need to do?
Well, first of all, by finishing it, you have accomplished most of the hard work. That's the big thing. But from there, there are numerous platforms now. At the time, I only knew of 2 of them, which were Amazon.com had a division that actually put up paperbacks and printed paperbacks. That's who printed this, as well as put up electronic books, the digital versions of them. So you had Amazon. And then on the other hand, there was another place called Lulu.com, which did something similar. Now there's about, I would say about 7 or 8 major players in this regard. And what you do is you simply edit this thing to the best of your ability. And then you go to the website of your choice and then start filling in the information. What's the title? What's the name of the author, the name of the cover artist, etc. Is this a series, blah, blah, blah. Then you upload your Word file, and then you upload your cover. And, it's not just the front cover, although I believe Amazon will let you create your own cover, back cover and spine. But you can do the whole wraparound business here and make it very personal to your brand. And it sounds intimidating, but the process walks you through it. So as long as you have your information and you have your files ready, you're good to go. It gets easier every time.
It sounds like a pretty simple process, quite honestly. That's why I was like, okay, what are the steps? That's it. You go through these 3 steps. And it's up. It's at the marketplace. You said something earlier, though. Let me touch on it, and that is, that sounds relatively simple to get it up there. But as a self-marketer, and this is where the next big step comes in, is you can get it up there, but who knows it's up there? What
Exactly.
are some of the keys to marketing if you're going to do your own book, other than just having a big presence in social media, or are there other avenues for you to take or take advantage of?
There are plenty of avenues, actually. Like right now, if I wanted to mention, this is available on Amazon and you can get it through risingtide.pub. See, I've just done that. How subtle Brian is. But also, I do broadcasting of my own. That's where Ted and I are allied in that, just like we're doing right now. I also mention it. It is astonishing how many authors I run into who think either that the work will sell itself or that it's beneath them somehow to promote, like they're prostituting themselves.
Yeah.
And I say, embrace your inner prostitute. Let the people know what you've done. But the thing is, when you're done with writing a book, I am so proud of all the effort I have put into it. It's like, these are like my children. This is like something I have genuinely accomplished that a lot of people just want to do.
Sure.
But not everybody makes the rubber meet the road, so to speak. And so I want people to know about it. I'm kind of like Donkey then. It's not getting me to talk about my books, but it's shutting me up. That becomes the true issue here. And so, I go on other people's shows. I go on my own shows. I'm only really active on Facebook, but you can also buy advertising on Facebook, on Google, LinkedIn, 100 different places.
So you're doing a lot of social media type marketing then.
Yeah.
That's really like you find your main base. So great. These are great tips. Let me ask you this though. What are a couple of things that where you did and you say, I'm never going to do it that way again? That was wrong. That was too long, or too this, or too that. I mean, what are some of those pitfalls?
Oh, I think one thing I did that I will never do again was I tried Facebook advertising with no background, no learning in it at all. My first 2 attempts to sell books through Facebook advertising, which is very inexpensive, by the way, those were total duds. Like the first time I tried it, I was looking at the demographics, which might as well have been written in Sanskrit for all my interpretive abilities. But I got back that most of my readers were female. And I thought, now that's interesting. And then the next time I got back information that, they're still female, but also various locations where my ads were getting more traction, that people were actually looking at them, even if they weren't going through and committing to buy them. Then on my third attempt, knowing that most of my audience is female, I wrote my ad copy to reflect a more character-driven tagline, I should say, for the stories. And then I targeted those municipalities that had responded originally. The third campaign paid for the first 2 and itself, and then some. So
that's great advice right there. So
just going in without any training. And now this is something I'm going to give your viewers a scoop here. I'm going to make sure we're alone here. There are 2 sites you can go to that will give you every bit of information you need. Google.com and YouTube. Okay.
Aren't they the same?
Anymore,
Yeah, right?
It seems like it. Yeah. And all the ads that pop up after my searches on Facebook and other social media will verify that. But no, you can just go to you can go to Google. They've got like 95, I'm not exaggerating, they've got like 95,000 videos on YouTube that tell you how to change like a wall switch.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So
easily. Yeah.
There are people on YouTube and other sites that are doing it professionally, and they aren't coming like, I'm making this stuff up. I'm actually doing the work, and here's how I did it. Here's how you can do it too. And Google is the same way. You just type in your question. How do I format a book for Lulu.com? Bam! Out comes 100,000 people have done.
Why do we want to do that when we could just ask you?
Exactly. That's why I'm here. Which is another thing I like to do, which is mentoring.
That's a very good point, Brian. He is good at mentoring. I'll give him that.
There's something else I will never do again. Segueing back to the previous question was, I thought my ability to do it meant I should help them do it in that, okay, here's how I'll do it for you sort of thing. But knowing, the old axiom about catching a fish and teaching a person how to fish are two different things. My mission has become more educational in nature. Like, I can do it, I can quantify what I do, and I can teach somebody how to do something similar. But then you got to take it from there. So the help doesn't. The help desk is not open 24 hours a day. So
yeah, it's
We
reserved
understand
for this 30 minutes a week, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah. The doctor will see you now, but that's it. So, but no. It's quite rewarding, and I've seen a number of people take my advice, and some people ignore it, and that's fine, because you've got to do what works for you. And if you ask me now how to do something, I will probably give you a different answer in 6 months, because the industry changes, the processes change a little bit. So it's not always going to be the same, which is why we all as creative people need to keep ourselves constantly educated about what we do.
One of the things, though, too, if I can interject, is editing. Editing doesn't change. You always need to edit.
No,
and re-edit.
Yeah, I that's a good point, Ted. And I know that you have like the best editors working for you, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, I'm a big fan of a old comic writer named Archie Goodwin, who wrote for Marvel, DC, War, and he's generally considered to be one of the most talented writers ever in the medium. And I read articles where he is also an incredible editor. He was in charge of Marvel at one point, and an editor at DC and Warren. And he said he preferred other people edit his work. And I've come around to that point long ago, that we all miss things in our own work, and nobody gets a perfect edit job. And, we're all human, and programs are not 100% efficient. But you can get too close to the work. And so I would prefer that somebody else look at it and tell me what an idiot I am than to let the reader find out about it after it's been on sale for 6 months. So.
Yeah. See, I am in the world where I guaranteed the moment I start, I know that it's going to be edited by 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
And they're not only going to edit it, likely are going to be making changes that I have no control over. And so, yeah, I'm just like, whatever, I'm just put it out. You can do what you want anyway. So here you go.
Yeah. And we wind up looking better as a result of it. So that's fine with me.
Yeah, I love the editor. The editor can be your friend, especially in print. I've written for print a lot, and that's great for me because I am, I don't want to say reliant on spell check and its issues, but I am, you'll read something of mine, they're like, what is he trying to say here? But I know what it is. It's your fault. Your problem.
Yeah, exactly. Gremlins edit those things in. I know this.
That's right.
Yeah, editing, great. Okay, so another thing I was going to say, 2 things. One is we back to the marketing really quick. You were talking about Google. Do you ever use Google to AdWords campaigns or something like that to drive to your site, or is that another method of advertising you use?
I don't use Google specifically. I do use Amazon though.
Okay.
But it fulfills a similar function in that you give it however many things to look for, or that actually the people that are possibly looking for your book to look for. For instance, the good example, likes Mary Shelley. Frankenstein. So anybody that's looking up like say a Frankenstein pastiche is going to look for this. Somebody that might be doing research for a term paper on Mary Shelley might wind up seeing that too, and that's a potential sale. But the whole thing about search engine optimization is an art unto itself, and and you have to go and revisit it occasionally because one, you will think of better terms as you go, and also that people like for instance Dean R. Koontz did a trilogy of Frankenstein pastiches several years ago. So like 15 years ago, I might not have put Dean R. Koontz in my arguments, but now Dean R. Koontz would go into the search.
Very good. Good advice. Good advice. So the process, write your book first.
Yes.
And let me ask you this. Do you feel that you've had more sells digitally or of hard copy?
Definitely digitally, because at my level, you won't see this from like the major publishers, and I understand why. But you'll have one price for paperbacks, which is based a lot on your production costs and the printing costs and postage, etc. And then a number of us at this level price our books, our ebooks, significantly lower because it's all ones and zeros. There's no physical element to it. There's no drain on the environment unless you count, the power plants that are keeping all the computers going. Whereas, something like this, there's paper, there's ink, there's all kinds of chemicals that have to, and there's time and the people printing it and the people packing it up. There's a whole lot of other costs involved in that, which we bypass by doing a digital version of it. So the digital version is priced more accordingly. Now, you won't see that from major publishers, I think, because retailers, the big box stores that still sell the physical elements, they can't make money off the digital versions really. So the price on their, the big companies have the digital version pretty close, if not exactly, to the level of the suggested retail price for the physical copy to appease their retailers. And again, I understand that because they are, print is not going away too soon. And sometimes, there's kind of like this race every year about, okay, the e version is selling more. Okay, now the physical version is selling more. So that's the long and the too long and pretty short of the pricing scheme here.
Well, good stuff. Real quick, because we're about out of time here. Just one more little question for you on this. We got a couple of minutes, but
Sure.
Pricing. That's a good point to make. Suppose you've never sold a book. How do you price your book? Are you just trying to are you doing comps online, or how do you set that value of your property?
Well, for one thing, when you go through most publishing houses, and I'm not talking about private printers, but online publishing, a lot of them will give you a suggested retail price based on your genre, your page count, et cetera, et cetera. And you can follow that, or that's another nice thing about self-publishing. You can determine your profit margin.
Yep.
I tell people I probably got a better profit margin on my books than Stephen King gets on his. Now, of course, I don't sell 20 bazillion copies of mine yet. The day is not over yet. But I usually figure up my a little bit of my production costs. You'll never get back your time, of course, but the physical printing cost and the postage per unit, and then I multiply it by a certain amount, usually depending on the confidence I have in the book. Or like for a while, I had a very, very slim book that was about 40 pages, and that was kind of like my loss leader, which I would sell to somebody who wanted an introduction to my work, and then hopefully they'll come back and get more. And that one I like doubled my price on, but a lot of people will triple or more their costs so that they have some wiggle room in offering like bulk discounts to bookstores, etc., or even to offer a comp. It's like, hey, I like you. have a copy of my book, because this is also my business card too.
That do you one last question, I promise this is it. I could go on all day, but we're out of time. But this is it. If you honestly, I've lost the question already. It was about forget it. We'll save it for next time.
Why is he wearing a fez, right?
We gotta go. Yeah.
Darn it.
Yeah. Do you drive a tiny car?
No, I don't. The reason I have this, because if you're a Doctor Who fan, especially Matt Smith, you know that bow ties are cool and so are fezzes. And I've struck up many conversations at shows with people who look at that, and we already have something in common.
Yeah.
It's part of my branding. And I'd rather people know me. You know, I get a lot of teasing because, oh, everybody knows you because you have a fez. Yeah, that's right. That means it's working. So
you've got
marketing
your
101.
Got your brands right there. Well, Brian, thanks a lot for being here. Great info. Really good stuff. Folks, again, you got our social medias here. What? www.risingtide.pub. You can find all his books. So what's your newest book? What's the latest?
The newest book I'm working on right now is called The Terrors. It's based on a 1940s comic book with a lot of twists to it. I've been serializing it on my Patreon account, and now we're going to produce the physical and the electronic version probably in about 2 or 3 months. In fact, I was editing it today.
All right, great. So you can follow Brian and all his work at risingtide.pub. Look for his social media handles as well. You're all over social media.
Yep.
We'll be looking for the how to publish your book videos by you soon. Do you have those out yet?
Not yet. We're still
you
in
need
the scripting
to.
phase. I'm going to. I've gotten started the scripting on them. So
if there's 50,000 videos, why not 50,001?
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. Get in there.
That's right.
Again, Brian, thanks a lot. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks for taking the time.
Always a pleasure, Brian. Thank you for stopping in, man.
It's been a delight. I hope to come back soon.
Excellent.
Definitely.
Yep. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was great. A lot of info there. I hope we were able to touch on some of the questions. I didn't even pull any of them out. We're out of time right now, but he went through every single step. I know that some of the questions that we have received in the past, they were answered. So hopefully everyone was able to listen in and get the advice. We're out of time. I got to get out of here.
Yep. Got it. I got it right, man. Get the right.
Me too. Be sure and follow us. Send us your questions at the Trenches of Hollywood on Instagram, From the Trenches of Hollywood on Facebook, Craig Hollywood Instagram, TedDaviesArtistry.com. We'll see you next time.
Talk to you. Thanks, guys.